In July 2025, Sharon Brightwell of Dover, Florida, received a phone call from her daughter. Her daughter was crying, barely coherent. She said she'd been in a car accident, that she'd lost her unborn baby, that she was facing criminal charges and needed $15,000 immediately or she was going to jail. Sharon didn't hesitate. She rushed to the bank, withdrew the cash, handed it to a courier, and waited for news. Then she called her daughter to check in. Her daughter answered on the first ring. Calm, confused, she had no idea what her mother was talking about. Sharon hadn't spoken to her daughter on the phone that day. She had spoken to an AI. And she had just given $15,000 to a criminal she never saw, never met, and will probably never find. To understand how this scam works, you need to understand what's actually happening on the other end of that call. AI voice cloning is exactly what it sounds like. Feed a voice model a sample of someone's voice, even just 3 seconds of audio, and it can reproduce that voice with startling accuracy. The tone, the rhythm, the accent, the way they breathe between sentences. And here's the part most people don't realize. That 3 seconds of audio is everywhere. Your voicemail greeting, a TikTok your kid posted, an Instagram story, a Facebook video from a family reunion 3 years ago, a LinkedIn clip from a work presentation. Researchers at Trend Micro found that scammers can clone a voice from as little as 3 seconds of publicly available audio and reproduce it with 85% accuracy. Enough to fool the people who know that voice best. The tools to do this aren't classified technology. They aren't restricted to nation-state hackers. They're available online, some of them for free, and they've become dramatically more sophisticated in the last 2 years. A McAfee study found that 1 in 4 Americans has already been targeted by an AI voice scam, or knows someone who has. And of the people who actually engaged with the call, 77% lost money. Not 7%, 77%. 3 out of 4 people who picked up and listened lost something. The average loss? $18,000. The mechanics are more sophisticated than most people imagine. It starts long before the phone call. Scammers, most of them operating out of organized fraud centers in Southeast Asia, spend days or weeks building a profile on their target. They identify the victim, usually an older adult. They identify a family member whose voice they can clone, usually a child or grandchild. They pull audio samples from social media. They build a script. Then they make the call. The scenarios are almost always the same. A car accident, an arrest, a medical emergency, a robbery abroad. Something that triggers immediate panic. Something that demands immediate action. Something that makes the victim feel that every second of hesitation puts their loved one at greater risk. The urgency is deliberate. Scammers know that if you have even 30 seconds to think clearly, you might call someone to verify. So they keep you on the phone. They keep the fake voice crying. They transfer you to a fake lawyer, a fake police officer, a fake bail bondsman. All part of the same operation, to maintain the illusion and keep you moving toward payment. They ask for cash, gift cards, wire transfers, cryptocurrency, anything that can't be reversed once it leaves your hands. Frank and Alice Boren of Birmingham, Alabama, heard what they thought was their great-grandson Cameron's voice on the phone. He said, "I'm in a lot of pain. I have a broken nose and I'm bleeding, but I only have a few minutes to talk." The voice told them he'd been in a car wreck and was being taken to jail. The call sounded exactly like Cameron, because it was built from Cameron's voice. The Borans almost sent money before a family member convinced them to call Cameron directly first. Not everyone gets that warning. Sharon Brightwell lost $15,000. That's significant, but it's not even close to the worst case. Margaret Thompson, 78, lost $45,000 when scammers cloned her grandson's voice and walked her through an elaborate scenario involving legal trouble and urgent bail. Her entire retirement savings gone in a single afternoon. But the most staggering case didn't involve a grandparent at all. In early 2024, a finance employee at a multinational firm in Hong Kong received a video call from who appeared to be his company's CFO. The CFO was on screen. Other colleagues were on screen. Everyone looked right and sounded right. Every single person on that call was an AI deepfake. The employee, believing he was following direct instructions from senior leadership, transferred $25.6 million across 15 separate transactions before anyone realized what had happened. $25.6 million. Gone. The numbers at a global scale are almost incomprehensible. The FTC received 250,000 complaints about AI voice cloning scams in just the first quarter of 2026 alone. And researchers believe that represents only about 15% of actual incidents, because most victims are too ashamed to report it. The FBI issued an official public warning just days ago. Not a routine advisory, an active warning. Because the volume of these attacks is accelerating. The scam success rate has climbed from 12% in 2024 to 34% in 2026. In 2 years, it nearly tripled. The psychology behind why this scam works so effectively is worth understanding, because it has nothing to do with being gullible or unintelligent. When you hear the voice of someone you love in distress, something happens in your brain that bypasses rational thought almost entirely. Psychologists call it amygdala hijack. The emotional center of your brain takes over, and the prefrontal cortex, the part that asks, "Wait, does this make sense?" goes temporarily offline. The scammers know this. They design every element of the call to keep you in that state. The crying voice keeps your empathy engaged. The urgency keeps you focused on action, not verification. The fake officials keep the illusion airtight. And the payment method, cash, gift cards, crypto, is specifically chosen because it's irreversible. By the time the prefrontal cortex comes back online, the money is already gone. A McAfee study found that 70% of people said they weren't confident they could tell the difference between an AI voice and a real one. And that study was conducted among general adults, not specifically elderly victims. The old advice, "You'll be able to tell because it sounds robotic," is dangerously outdated. These voices don't sound robotic anymore. They sound like your daughter, your grandson, your husband, because they were built from your daughter's voice, your grandson's voice, your husband's voice. So what can you actually do? Security researchers and the FBI recommend one thing above everything else. Establish a family code word. A word or phrase that only your immediate family knows, that anyone can use in an emergency call to verify they are who they say they are. Something that would never appear in a social media post or a voicemail. Something random enough that no AI could guess it. The second recommendation: never act on an emergency call without hanging up and calling the person back directly. on a number you already have saved, not a number the caller gives you, not a callback number from the same call, a number you independently know is theirs. The scam collapses the moment you do that. It only works when you stay on the line and keep moving toward payment. Sharon Brightwell didn't get that chance. By the time she thought to call her daughter directly, the cash was already gone. Her daughter was fine. The money wasn't. We built the technology that makes these scams possible in the name of creativity and convenience. And now, that technology has been weaponized at industrial scale against the people least equipped to defend against it. The voice on the phone that sounds like someone you love might not be. 3 seconds of audio is all it takes. Subscribe. New financial crime story every week.